Hello everyone, welcome to lecture series on the course Calculus of One Variable. This is lecture 12 and in this lecture we will discuss some more properties of convergent sequences. Now since we have discussed the notion of convergent sequence in the previous session, we are ready to do more analysis on this concept, and so we would put them in the form of theorems and proof. So, comparatively to the previous chapter, we are going to see here more theorems with the rigorous proof of them. And in this chapter, we will discuss more about the convergent sequence. That really do not implies that the divergent sequences are not important, are not of so important. In fact, it is also have an equal importance. So to start off with, we would discuss the conversion, the properties of convergent sequences, and very slowly, once we get familiar with this, once we get more familiar with this chapter, we might somewhere in between talk about the divergent, the properties of divergent sequences also. So the first property that one need to observe about the limit of the sequences is that if the sequence is convergent, then it converges to a unique limit. That means the limit of the sequence is unique. So this is the very first theorem in this chapter. So I would note down this as theorem 2.1. It talks about the uniqueness of the limit of the sequence. So I would title it as uniqueness of the limit. Now to prove such kind of property, we are going to make use of the definition of the convergent of sequence. So it is very important to have an idea of convergent sequences, which we have discussed in the previous lecture. So if you have not gone through it, please watch it and then you can start watching this video. So the theorem says that if xn is a real sequence such that xn converges to x, where x is some fixed real number, and xn also converges to y, then the only possibility for this x and y are they are same. So that says that if the sequence is convergent, then it converges to a unique point. So the proof of this, the idea flows from the Archimedean property. To show that this x is equal to y, we would ultimately show that the difference x minus y is equal to 0, and that can be shown by proving that. Okay, so I'll write down what in short we would prove. So we will prove mod of x minus y is less than epsilon for all epsilon positive. So we know that this mod is greater than or equal to 0, and so when we prove that this for any given any epsilon positive, its mod is less than epsilon, then the only possibility for this mod is that it has to be equal to 0. And so mod is equal to 0 implies the quantity inside the mod is also equal to 0, and that proves that x minus y is equal to 0. So we attain this inequality, attain this equality by showing that mod of x minus y is less than epsilon for all epsilon positive. Now why we are doing this? Because when we talk about the convergent sequence, epsilon always come into the picture. So I'm going to use the fact that this xn converges to x and xn also converges to y. So let's start with the proof. So let epsilon be positive. So this is given. Since xn converges to x, by definition of conversion, we are able to find a natural number, say I'll call it as n1, such that mod of xn minus x is less than epsilon. Now see, to get this claim we may have to modify this epsilon. Now if epsilon is any real number, epsilon into any positive real number will also be in any positive real number. So we might consider this definition for that positive real number. So we would see how we need to modify this epsilon so that we get this claim. So as of now I'll keep this as it is. This happens for all n greater than or equal to this capital N1. Also we know that xn converges to, I would call this as 1. Also xn converges to y. This implies that there is another natural number. They may be same or they may be different. We nomenclate it as n2, such that mod of xn minus y is less than epsilon for all n greater than or equal to n2. Now if you observe this, how do we observe this mod of x minus y, the approximation mod of x minus y through this? It is very simple. See, mod of x minus y can be balanced by the term xn. I can write down this as x minus xn minus of xn minus y, and so that minus y minus x, so xn, so that xn is simply balanced and we adjust it with the term x and y so that I can use this fact. But we know that this is happening for all xn which is after this, coming after and equal to this n1. So like this is happening for x n1, x capital N1 plus 2 and so on, and this again, this second one is happening for all n greater than or equal to n2. So we want to find one common n for which both this condition will satisfy, that is mod of xn minus x is less than epsilon as well as mod of xn minus y is less than epsilon. And it is very easy to observe. See, this natural number lies on the real number, so I have 1 2 3 and it goes on. Say suppose I consider this as n1, and in this case I'm considering without loss of generality that n2 is greater than n1. So what is happening is that all xn will satisfy all xn for n greater than or equal to n1 from here onward. For this n1 onwards, for this natural number, all xn will satisfy this property. That means xn will lie in the band x minus epsilon to x plus epsilon. So you can see that even for the numbers which are greater than this n2, for those also xn will satisfy this property, because obviously this n2 is greater than n1, so it also satisfy the natural number. It is also a natural number which is greater than or equal to n1. And this property is going to satisfy only for this natural number which is greater than or equal to n2. And you can see that if I choose the natural number n2 for all n greater than or equal to n2, mod of xn minus x will also be less than epsilon and mod of xn minus y will also be less than epsilon. So both this inequality will satisfy if I choose this as my n. Okay, now since in this case we don't know where does this n1 and n2 lie, but we get the idea that we need to choose the maximum among this n1 and n2 so that both this condition 1 and 2 satisfy. Okay, so therefore we choose n, so let n, capital N, be a maximum of this n1 comma n2. So now what will happen is that since n is the maximum of n1 comma n2, this would implies that n is greater than or equal to n1 as well as n is greater than or equal to n2, right? So therefore whenever I have n greater than or equal to n, then n also have to be greater than or equal to n1, and n greater than or equal to n2. So therefore, whenever small n is greater than or equal to this capital N, then n is greater than or equal to n1 and n is also greater than or equal to n2, because it's n is the maximum of n1 comma n to n. So if this is true, then that n has to be greater than or equal to n1 as well as, sorry, here uh, n has to be greater than or equal to n2. And because of that, and therefore I say that whenever this n is greater than or equal to capital N, we have both this condition satisfying. That is, mod of xn minus x is less than epsilon and mod of xn minus y is strictly less than epsilon. We have mod of xn minus x is less than epsilon and mod of xn minus x, sorry, y is strictly less than epsilon. So now for n greater than or equal to n, I would see the difference mod of x minus y. Okay, and this difference, as I said, it can be balanced by the term xn for all n greater than or equal to n, and we know that for all n greater than or equal to n, both this condition satisfy. So I can use this both condition whenever we have this into the picture for all n greater than or equal to n. So now how I balance this, I would write down this as x minus xn plus xn minus yn. So this is same as writing mod of x minus xn. Okay, now this can be written as plus xn minus y. And so here you can apply the triangle inequality for considering this as one term and this as another term. So this should be less than or equal to x minus xn plus this is less than xn minus y. But again, see, xn minus y is just a negative of y minus xn. So I can write down this, or x minus xn, since we have xn minus x over here, so that x minus xn is just a negative of x minus xn. So this modulus is same as xn minus x plus this would be same as xn minus y. Now we know the fact that this is less than epsilon and this is also less than epsilon, but if I take that epsilon as it is, then we would get the entire term, this mod of x minus y will be strictly less than 2 epsilon. So we want it to be less than epsilon, so that means that suggests us that we need to take we need to do some modification for this epsilon. So what I'll do is that for this epsilon positive, again epsilon, so if I take epsilon by 2, that will work, because epsilon by 2 plus epsilon by 2 is same as epsilon. So for that reason, I'll we know that if epsilon positive is any positive real number, then epsilon by 2 is also any real number. So this would be true for the epsilon by 2 also. So for this epsilon by 2, we have a natural number n1 such that mod of xn minus x is less than epsilon by 2. Similarly, again for this epsilon by 2, you can find a natural number, because epsilon by 2 is again positive. So you can find a natural number such that mod of xn minus y is less than epsilon by 2. And so we also have that this is less than epsilon by 2, this is less than epsilon by 2, and this can be now made strictly less than epsilon by 2 plus epsilon by 2, which is equal to epsilon. And so what we have is that, and therefore we have mod of x minus y is less than, strictly less than epsilon for any epsilon positive. You need not write now this n greater than or equal to n, because we are looking for the approximation mod of x minus y, and this would imply that mod of x minus y is equal to 0, and this we have proved using the Archimedean property, right? The reason is that mod of x minus y is greater than or equal to 0, and so that implies that if modulus is 0, then the term as it is equal to 0, that implies that x is equal to y. So this is the proof for the uniqueness. Let me discuss one more theorem with related to conversion of sequence. Theorem 2.1. 2, let me first mention the statement and then let me explain what it means. So if we have a sequence which converging to say fixed point x, xn and x are real numbers, so that implies that the given sequence is a real sequence. If I fix say some natural number capital N, now I'll define a new sequence, define sequence yn such that yn is equal to xn for all n greater than or equal to fixed n, then this says that yn and xn will have the same limit. So then yn also converges to the limit of the sequence xn, that is equal to x. So first try to understand this statement. What it says that if we have a sequence xn which converges to a limit point, which converges to a point x, and if we have a new sequence yn whose fixed, whose except say certain finite points are not same as xn. So yn, see what this would say, that except possibility for n equal to 1, 2, 3 till say capital N minus 1, this yn may not be equal to xn, but yn is equal to xn after certain stage. So after capital N onwards, all the terms of xn is same as yn. Then this won't change the limit of the sequence yn. So yn will also converges to x. In short, even if we differ certain finite points of the sequence, it won't affect the conversion, it won't affect the limit of that particular sequence. So now the proof is again have the similar idea what we have proved for the above theorem. So first I will use the fact that xn is converging to x, and I have to show that yn converges to x. Proof. So since I need to show that yn converges to x, I will have to start with an arbitrary epsilon. So let epsilon positive be given, and for this epsilon positive I should be able to produce a natural number n such that the distance between yn and x is less than epsilon for all n greater than or equal to that natural number which you have found. So now here, since epsilon positive is given, I'll use the fact that xn converges to x. So since xn converges to x, we should be able to find a natural number, say n1 in n, such that mod of xn minus x is less than epsilon for all n greater than or equal to n1. See, now you want to show that this yn converges to x, so you need to produce a natural number n1 such that mod of yn minus x is less than epsilon for all n greater than or equal to that natural number. So only thing, if you are allowed to replace this xn by yn, then, and if you are able to find some natural number such that this again hold for all n greater than or equal to that natural number, then you are done. So now the idea follows from this. We know that for all n greater than or equal to capital N, obviously this xn is equal to yn. So only for certain finite values of natural number, this xn may not be equal to yn. So what I'll do is that I'll consider, so I'll construct one new n, say n2, which is the maximum of both n as well as n1. So therefore, for all n greater than or equal to this n2, we should have both this condition satisfying simultaneously, because when n is greater than or equal to n2, we would have n greater than or equal to this capital N as well as n greater than or equal to this n1, and therefore this condition which restrict for those n greater than or equal to n1 will also satisfy for n greater than or equal to n2, and this condition which restrict only for those n greater than or equal to n, it is going to satisfy for this n greater than or equal to n2 also. We have xn is equal to yn and mod of y, mod of xn minus x is less than epsilon, and thus now, and therefore for n greater than or equal to n2, since this is true and this is also true, I can replace xn by yn over here. So yn minus x is also less than epsilon, as yn is equal to xn for all n greater than or equal to n2, and also this is true. Okay, and that proves the theorem, and therefore what we have proved is that, therefore we have shown that for given epsilon positive, we have produced a natural number n2 such that mod of yn minus x is less than epsilon for all n greater than or equal to n2. Hence, we can claim that yn converges to x. Okay, so these are the two theorems we have discussed for this lecture. I would wind up this lecture with this theorem, with the proof of this theorem. In the next session, in the next lecture, we are going to see some more properties, advanced property of the conversion of sequence. Thank you for watching this video and have a nice day ahead.